But I very much doubt that that's going to happen, because I think this is the fault line that exists within British conservatism. Most of the MPs think that Brussels is really rather a good idea, and the majority of their members don't. Now, on top of talking about the big elections and the party itself, I've been doing a little bit of thinking myself about what I'm going to do. And I do think that it's very important that UKIP gets a voice in Westminster. A party that comes second in a national election like the European elections needs representation and needs a voice in Westminster. And so I've been thinking for a long time, what was the right thing for me to do? What was the right constituency for me to have a go at? And so, having a scan around, I discovered a place where the sitting MP represented to me all that was worst in British politics. Somebody who had been elected by tens of thousands of people who thought they were getting a Conservative, but actually found they were getting somebody who was much closer to Tony Blair's New Labour project, somebody who is the ultimate careerist, and somebody who, despite being embroiled in the expenses saga himself, has now found himself as Speaker of the House of Commons. So I've decided that I will fight John Bercow in the parliamentary constituency of Buckingham. Well, it's good to know that one or two of the things I say are popular at conference. It beggars belief, doesn't it? It beggars belief that on choosing a new Speaker, after the last one was forced to resign because of the shock and anger and disgust over the expenses scandal, that our members of Parliament could have chosen, of all of the candidates on that list, John Bercow. I mean, it just goes to show that our MPs simply don't get it, do they? They really don't get it. And there we have a Speaker of a House of Commons that basically doesn't do anything anymore because the power is all being given away, and yet he is now an enthusiastic supporter of this European project. I would have thought that what the House of Commons needed was a Speaker who fought like a lion to get back to the British Parliament the ability to make law and to bring British democracy back into this country. But please don't misinterpret that, as one or two people did yesterday, into thinking that I'm running to be Speaker of the House of Commons. And I had several text messages yesterday from people offering to lend me their wigs, and in one case, a pair of stockings. But anyway, we'll move on from that. I am going to fight that seat, and I'm going to give it everything I've got, and I will need your help, support and encouragement along this road. But I'm going to go out there, I'm going to knock on tens of thousands of doors, I'm going to hold public meetings across that constituency, and I promise to visit every single licensed premises in the Buckingham constituency. But, ladies and gentlemen, what I've realised and increasingly felt now for a long time is that we are very different to the other parties, not just politically, but in terms of our structure. And to be the political parliamentary leader of UKIP necessitates my being in Brussels and Strasbourg. To be the leader of that group in the European Parliament, which has given us so many opportunities over the last 5 years, necessitates my spending a considerable amount of time, 2, perhaps 3 days every single week across the other side of the water. I do repeat that when 2.5 million people have put their faith in you to go to that Parliament and do a good job, it is beholden upon us to make sure that we do that job and do it well. And I hope that as the next few months, or perhaps years go by, that we'll find other UKIP MEPs who are capable and who have the experience of taking that job from me. But at the moment, I don't believe that is the case. And it has just been desperately hard to be leader of a group over there and to be leader of a domestic political party here. And now that I've decided to fight the Buckingham seat as well, I've come to the conclusion that I may just have bitten off rather more than I can chew. I think I'm better to the party doing fewer jobs better than I am saying yes to everything and making a mess of it. I will stay as the party political leader in the Parliament, in Brussels and Strasbourg. I will stay as an MEP in the southeast of England. I will campaign my socks off against John Bercow in Buckingham. I want to continue to be a spokesman for the party, as I was before I became the leader in 2006. I will continue to do all that I can to raise funds for this party. But I simply cannot take on the job of the planning and execution of a national general election campaign on top of all of those things. And it is up to the UKIP leader, ultimately, to do those things. We are structured differently to the other parties. And so, for that reason, and actually not with any sadness, because look, it's because we're getting bigger. It's because we're becoming more successful. It's because we're going to fight 500 constituencies. It's because we've started to win council seats. It's because of all of these things that the job of being leader of both has now become impossible. And so it's time for me to stand aside as leader of this party. And I'll tell you something. When I took it over, and for years before that, UKIP had been riven with infighting. We had a brand that publicly was seen by many to be somewhat toxic. I think that has gone. Even those elements of the media that may not like what we stand for, no longer really think that we're the wild men from the hills. And as far as the party itself is concerned, the fact we've got so many prospective parliamentary candidates that have been interviewed and approved and put in place shows you how unified we are out there in the regions. This party has never been in better health than it is now. And it's for that reason that I feel now is the right time for me to do this, and I wanted to do it at a national conference so that you understood what my reasons are. It is simply not possible for any human being, however hard-working or talented they are, with... It is not humanly possible, with a party growing like this one is, to be leader of both, and that is why I'm standing aside. And I would also remind the conference that when we started as a party, the view that Britain had a future outside of the emerging political union, that we could have a trade deal, we could cooperate and be friends, was considered mad and bad and supported by a small minority of the British population. We now have a clear, consistent majority in the opinion polls who back up and support everything that UKIP stands for. We have shifted public opinion in this country. There's much to do, but ladies and gentlemen, there's also very much we should be proud of. Thank you very much.